I used to think that crying was just the wind, a trick of the night air, a coyote's call warped by canyon walls. That's what we told ourselves growing up in Las Nieves. It was easier than saying her name, but I know better now. 3 years ago, I returned to bury my mother. Her house, left untouched since she passed, sat slumped beside an old irrigation ditch. The acequia had run dry since before I was born, but people still crossed the street to avoid it. My mother used to say, if you hear weeping after midnight, lock your doors and do not answer. That first night, as I sorted through her things, the wind picked up. Thunder rumbled far off. I opened the window to let in the breeze and froze. Somewhere beyond the fence, by the ditch that carved its way through the dirt and mesquite, someone was crying. No, not someone. A woman, a sound so full of loss it made my skin crawl. Thin, mournful. It wasn't screaming. It wasn't human grief. It was ancient. And when I leaned in to listen, I heard it. Miss Hijos, the hairs on my arms lifted. I slammed the window shut, locked it, and backed away. My breath was loud in my chest. I hadn't heard that phrase in years, not since childhood. Not since my grandmother hissed it through her teeth, when warning us not to stray too far at dusk. That night, I slept with the lights on, or tried to, because something scratched at the window glass. Just before dawn. Las Nieves isn't on most maps. A scattering of tired houses, brittle weeds, and rusted fences clawing the desert floor. Cicadas shriek until midnight. The air smells like wet dust when it rains, and when it floods, things disappear. The acequia ran past my mother's backyard. Like a scar. Long ago, it had been built to irrigate the chili fields. But that was before the droughts. Before the warnings, the ditch itself was shallow but deep enough to lose a child. Dry for most of the year, it only surged when storms raged in the mountains. Locals told stories of flash floods dragging away pets, livestock, and sometimes more. My mother kept a wooden cross nailed to the fence. No one ever said why. That house, it felt stuck between decades. The wallpaper peeled in long strips. Old religious candles cluttered shelves. The kitchen smelled faintly of soap, lime, and something older like musty linen trapped in a sealed room too long. When the sun dipped low and shadows spilled through the windows, everything changed. The floorboards creaked in warning. Doors shifted without touch. And from the back porch, if you listened closely, you could hear the water whispering. Even when there was no water. By the second night, the rain came heavy. It didn't tap on the roof. It hammered. Lightning flashed like silent screams on the horizon. Thunder cracked. And as I watched the storm, something moved by the ditch, pale. Slow. At first, I thought it was just a trick of the light. But the shape was there again when the next bolt split the sky. Closer. A woman. Long hair. A white dress soaked to her knees. She was staring straight at the house. Then the power went out. My name is Barosha. Elena Reyes. I grew up in Las Nieves but left. After high school, never planned to return. I'd made a life for myself in El Paso, graphic designer, freelance, comfortable. When Mom died, I came back out of obligation. She and I hadn't spoken in months. We argued often. She was traditional. I wasn't. She clung to old ways, old fears. She still burned sage after someone cursed our neighbor's dog, but none of that mattered when I walked through the door of that old house and smelled her perfume, rose and vanilla, faint but familiar. Grief doesn't care how far you ran. Stayed longer than I planned. The will said I could do what I wanted with the house. Sell it, burn it, keep it. I spent days sorting boxes, cleaning rooms that hadn't been touched in years. And each night, I grew more restless. Sleep came in fits. I'd wake drenched in sweat, heart racing. My dreams were filled with water, with crying, with small hands reaching up from beneath the surface. On the third night, I found an old journal in my mother's room. She'd written about the woman LLorona. She believed in her, said she'd seen her once. After my brother died, that was the part I hadn't spoken of. I had a twin. His name was Mateo. He drowned in that same acequia when we were 6. I don't remember it, just the funeral, just the way my mother stopped. Smiling after that day, she blamed herself. Said she heard crying before it happened, and now. So had I, reading her words made something inside me crack. I wasn't just cleaning a house. I was digging up a grave neither of us had wanted to open. Something had noticed. The crying grew louder each night, not always outside. Sometimes from the hall. Sometimes beneath the floor, I searched the attic, the cellar. The crawl space, nothing, but the photos I'd placed on the mantel kept turning backward. Lights flickered even when the weather was calm. My mother's old rosary left untouched on the dresser was tangled in knots when I woke up. I told myself I was tired. That grief plays tricks, until the night I followed the crying. I stood at the window. Rain lashed the glass. And there she was, standing in the ditch. Her face turned up toward me. She didn't move. She didn't blink, her mouth opened. And even with the storm raging, I heard it clear as a bell. Miss Hijos, I ran to the door, locked it, then ran upstairs and curled beneath the covers like a child. But I couldn't sleep, because footsteps padded across the floor below, and I was alone. The next morning, muddy prints led from the back door to the stairs. I left, stayed at a motel on the edge of town, but the crying followed. In the pipes, and the air conditioner. From the shadows outside my window, something was tethered to me. Maybe it always had been. I returned on the 5th night. I had to end it. I brought the journal, the rosary, and the only photo I had of Mateo. I lit candles, said his name aloud, prayed in a language I barely remembered. I cried, and the house responded. The crying returned. Louder, desperate. Shadow passed across the hallway. The air turned cold. I walked to the back door, opened it. The ditch was full. Water roared past. And in the center she stood. LLorona. She was clearer now. A face both beautiful and hollow. Skin too smooth, too pale. Her hair floated even though there was no wind. She raised her arms. Her mouth opened wider than it should. A black void, not a throat. A scream burst forth. Not just grief, but rage, accusation, and I understood. She didn't want to hurt me. She wanted me to see. I stepped closer. The water reached my ankles, freezing. Sharp. The ditch glowed faintly. Not from the moon, from beneath. Like there was something shining below the surface. Children. Dozens of them. Floating just beneath the current. Eyes closed. Faces peaceful. And among them, Mateo. I dropped to my knees. Reached out, but a hand grabbed. Mine first. Her hand. She pulled me forward, not with force, but with sadness. Her face so close now I could see the cracks in her cheeks, like porcelain left too long in the cold. "Hey, Miss Hijos," she whispered. I closed my eyes and remembered. Sound of splashing. My mother screaming. Mateo's hand slipping from mine. The silence afterward. I had been there. I had watched, and I had forgotten. She let me go. And just like that, she vanished. So did the water. I stood alone in the dry ditch, the moon above, my breath fogging the air. Something inside me had changed. I wasn't afraid. Was grieving. They say the acequia is dry again. But when it rains, people still hear crying. I sold the house. Moved back to El Paso. Tried to rebuild. But sometimes, in the silence of my apartment, I hear it again. A cry. Thin, ancient, searching. I keep Mateo's photo on my desk now. A candle beside it. Sometimes, when the flame flickers without wind, I whisper his name. Just to let him know I remember. Last week, I went to see a therapist, told her about the dreams. About the woman, she didn't laugh. She just asked me one question. When the crying comes, she said, "Do you answer?" I didn't know then, but last night I did. I stood by the sink. Rain tapped the window dot, and when I heard her, Miss Hijos, I whispered back, "I know." And the crying stopped.